Welcome to another Chit Chat episode, guys. A lot of things going in the air. With the market, we got a lot of drivers who are asking questions, not just the drivers that work with us. We've got a lot of other drivers that work with other different companies that are asking questions. We're getting a lot of phone calls, people wanting to switch from their company to us. They think that we're doing very hot, apparently, or people are calling around asking what rates we got going on. Well, to tell you guys all that, if things are bad, they're bad everywhere. It doesn't matter where you're at. Right now, the trucking industry is down. I know we are in expediting, but we're still in the transportation industry. And transportation industry is down. It's definitely down. The rates have fallen. Fuel keeps climbing. Things in the air about recession, things like that. Not sure where we're going with this. I don't know anything. I don't have any answers. I don't have any predictions for you guys. I don't have anything to say except for somebody else is taking loads for cheaper and will keep taking them because that's what they're going to do. So somebody always takes. There's going to be always a more expensive driver. There's always going to be a cheaper driver. There's always going to be a more expensive trucking company and a less expensive trucking company. So it all depends how much overhead a company has, how much overhead a driver has. Obviously, a person with a paid off van is going to go for a lot cheaper if they need to be driving versus standing around. Somebody who has some crazy expenses, who has a crazy insurance payment. I mean, I've gotten phone calls and been told that we've got drivers that want to start doing this. Yeah, they're a little bit on the younger side, but I don't know what's going on. Some of these guys' insurance is over $2,000 a month. That's insane for insurance. If your insurance is over $2,000 a month, there's got to be a problem with the way you drive. You've got maybe accidents, you've got a bad credit history, you've got bad driving record maybe, or maybe all the above, and you're young, so maybe just hang out and wait till you're, a little bit older, at least 21 then, with a better record, maybe married. If you're married or not, that has a lot to do with it. If you're, like I said, if your driving history, driving record, if you have accidents, if your credit history is bad, if you're not married, if you're young, all these things play a big role in expediting insurance or any kind of trucking insurance altogether. So they're trying to stick to, giving insurance to somebody who has a good record versus somebody who doesn't. Then you're obviously a threat more than somebody else. So obviously they got to charge you more because, you're younger, you don't have experience, so on and so forth. But rates right now have dropped tremendously, big time. Loads, as far as loads go, I would say from the dispatcher's perspective point of view, probably 30% less loads on the boards right now than there used to be. I don't know why. Maybe shippers are just finding other ways to send their freight. Maybe they're using LTL more than than expediting. Maybe the whole economy is kind of shifting. Things are getting back to where they used to be. Maybe the inflation has something to do with it, where things are overpriced and things can't, people can't afford it, can't pay them, and then it influences the trucking market. I really don't know. I don't have an answer for you. This thing keeps wanting to fall. I really have no answer. As far as one concrete answer, I don't have any idea. I'm not a marketologist. I don't sit behind computers and, look at the market, look at, what's going on in the world and things like that. I don't have time for that. We're dispatching. We're looking for freight, finding freight, and so on and so forth. And I don't know, maybe some of those companies that have their own customers, they're under contract still, but I think all that is, still going to be dropping no matter what, because there's still somebody that's going to be going cheaper. Current rates, people want to hear it. I'm going to tell you, probably in the 85-cent range. If you can get a load for $1 a mile, that's a very good pay. Even if it goes to a bad area, slower area, it doesn't matter where it's going. I'm telling you what, guys, it's still a very good price to go for $1 a mile right now. There's some drivers that, some people want to switch over, but they think they're going to get a lot more than that. And I tell them, if you're getting $1 a mile from your current company, stick with them. Don't go anywhere. We are about 50-50. I don't know. There's some specialty loads that we do that are paying $1 a mile. We do some medical loading, unloading. We do some Starbucks stuff. Sometimes we get into other loads that we gotta, touch the freight and do that. It's a little bit of exercise, but hey, that little bit, that tiny little bit, pays you good on a long mileage, so it's good. Right now, there's no bad area, there's no good area, there's nothing like that. Right now, if you can get the mileage, you're doing good because you're gonna get paid for those miles once you deliver. As far as don't send me here, don't send me there, there's no more of that. It's disappeared. Right now, it disappeared. You just got to go where the load goes. Yeah, there's, obviously, like if it goes to Montana, then we, going to figure it out and either get you down to Denver, down to Salt Lake, whatever, all miles paid. We try to do that. Otherwise, we don't go. There's no point to go and sit in Montana for 2 weeks. Or like North Dakota, South Dakota. You guys know what I'm talking about, all those bad areas. Or like Vermont, somewhere by Canada and stuff like that. We don't go there. Unless they're paying, deadhead miles to come down into the place where we know where there's freight. That's our company. That's how we do things. So as far as load rates, well, what do you expect? If a dry van is currently running under $2 a mile, and if they're getting a load that's $2 a mile on a semi-truck, full load, 40,000 pounds, their insurance is higher. They've got a big truck and trailer. They deal with DOT. They deal with big, huge maintenance costs. All of that is a huge cost compared to Sprinter prices. So if those guys are, just under $2 or right at $2 and things are tough for them even at those rates, what do you expect that, cargo van prices are going to be? That's what they're going to be. If we're moving at 85 cents a mile, well, it is what it is. I know it's not what we want to hear. I know it's not what we want to get paid. But in the end, at the end of the month or at the end of what your trip is, say you go out say you've got a money goal, you want to make $10,000 in a month to survive, to pay all your bills, to have expenses, and to save, $2,000-$3,000 in a month. So once you've hit that goal, then you go home, then you relax as much as you need to relax, and that's it. It's doable. It's even with the current rates, even if you got to drive for 85 cents a mile. Some spots, some drivers, they're giving us 70 cents a mile to get out right now. Yeah. We try to get as much as possible. We go in with $1 a mile. We see what's happening. If we can't get that, then, we try a little bit cheaper. And if we got to negotiate and we got to say, hey, driver, look, we're not getting any answers, or, we're being told this by the broker. We're being told to price match if we want the load, so on and so forth. So then we, me and you, or our dispatch and you driver, we, go in contact and say, hey, you okay with us trying this? You want us to try this much? Or you want us to try lower just to get out of here and go? And, like I said, currently there's no bad place, there's no good place. If we can get mileage and if we can get good miles at the end of the week, you're going to have decent pay and you're going to go. Worst case, even at these rates right now, say, yeah, you're used to $1 a mile, but now we're getting, 85 or 90 cents a mile for that load. Well, worst case, you just got to do an extra maybe 2 loads in the month or in your time period that you're out and about on the road, and you're good to go. That will cover, the difference in the pay versus, $1 a mile and now 85 cents a mile. Yeah, it's going to be a little more miles. Yeah, it's going to be a little more wear and tear in your vehicle. But hey, this is business. What do you expect? Business is business. Business, say if you were doing, say if you're doing installing floors, either tile or you got tile and, hardwood that you're doing installs of. and you go and bid a job. You bid a job that you got to do, maybe 1,000 square feet of flooring, and you bid that job, and you're going to get $2,000 for that, just for the work. And you go in with all your tools. You already know that you have all the tools. You don't need to buy anything special. But then within your tools, your tile saw starts smoking, and you got to buy a new tile saw. And then your, chop saw that you always use, that chop saw, you were going to go replace a blade, and you dropped it, and you knocked the teeth off of it. So now you got to go buy an $80 blade for the chop saw. And now you got to go and spend, $1,000 on a new tile saw. So that $2,000 you were going to make, now all of a sudden you've got a $1,000 expense and another $80 expense minus from that. Business is business. It's the same thing when an owner-operator is sitting in their own vehicle, and, it could be a great week, could be a bad week. You could be getting paid good for a couple loads, then you got to do some that are cheaper. It's business, guys. There's no prediction. Nobody's ever going to know. When it's bad somewhere, it's bad everywhere. Every company is different. In expediting, there's no such thing as special lanes, special contracts, special this and that. No, there isn't, because today you're here, tomorrow you could end up in Florida, the next day you could be in Tennessee somewhere, or you could be, here and then in California and somewhere else. With expediting, there's no special freight, there's no special lanes, there's none of that. It's not like semi-truckload freight where there's a bunch of it and it's always there and all you got to do is just agree on the price. No, that's, expediting is way different. Expediting goes off of load boards because there's no special. It's some kind of an emergency somewhere. That's what expediting is. It's usually some kind of an emergency. Something breaks down somewhere, they need a part, something, their more product is missing somewhere, or some product went bad and they need it now. It's usually, time critical freight that all of a sudden they just need it now. All of a sudden something happened and it needs to be there. And when it's all of a sudden, there's no special lane for it. Wherever you're at, wherever that driver is, if you're nearby, we bid the load, we win the load, we give you the load. So I hope that explains it to you guys. I mean, yeah, it's not, I'm in the same boat. When I go on these loads, it's the same thing. I just came back. I did one to Portland. I just came back yesterday from Portland, sad till 3 o'clock, and went home empty. And thank God it paid me that round trip. But I'm on the West Coast. I know what I'm doing. Our dispatch knows what we're doing. When we're on the West Coast and we're out here, doing some of these short ones, we know exactly that, say, from Portland to Spokane, it's got to pay there and back. If I'm picking up, in Portland, delivering somewhere else, dang right that there's not going to be anything coming back. So we got to bid this thing as a round trip. If they don't want to pay that round trip, then hey, too bad, because we know that you're going to get stuck. I don't want to be stuck over there for a week somewhere. So it's got to pay me a round trip to come back home, and I sit here and wait for the next load to come out. If you're sitting in Portland and you can go anywhere, like California, I mean, you got an open world that you can go to anywhere, then yeah, of course, it doesn't matter. Then of course we're going to, from Seattle to Portland, if it's a 200-mile run, we're going to try to get that driver like $350, $400 probably. Sometimes maybe, 300 for a 200-mile run, at least something like that, to where your day doesn't go empty and nothing. But right now, like I said, there's a lot less freight, and that freight is going for cheap. So what we got to do is tighten up that belt. Things might get tighter, things might get tougher, but all it takes is, I think, if you do some math correctly, maybe, decent loads, maybe a 700-mile and 1,000-mile trip, extra trip in whatever time you're out on the road, or in a month, that will cover that 85-cent difference versus $1 a mile difference. Few of those 1,000 miles, that extra money you're going to get from that, add that to whatever it is that you think you've gone cheaped out on. It's not cheaped out, it's just what it is. Truckers, they're in the same boat. Yeah, they were making good money. They were getting up to $7 a mile when things were doing good. Expediting, that stayed the same. I mean, we were getting $1 a mile. We were getting a little more sometimes, but around $1 a mile is what we were getting. They were raking it in. I'm telling you, they needed a huge shovel like this big to rake. They could have had a semi-truck full of money already. If they did good, they should have saved it. And now is the time to pull out your savings and use your savings. Same thing with us. We were doing good. Loads were doing great. We could have been making money. I was making money, and I've been saving money. So right now, this slowness or this cheaper rate, it doesn't even matter. It's all you got to do is do an extra load, 1 or 2 extra loads in a month or whatever time period, and it covered that slowness or cheapness or whatever. So hope that makes sense for you guys. I'll repeat myself again. I don't have all the right answers. I don't know what's happening. All I know is this. We've been doing this for 8 years. Every time, right before Christmas, right before holidays, things slow down. In the trucking market, things do slow down. It doesn't matter if you're in a box truck, if you're in a Sprinter van, or if you're in a semi-truck. All freight slows down in the wintertime. For some reason, it just does. I don't know why. I think maybe because reefers are, taking other loads and things like that. It has a lot to do with everything. In the summertime, it's busier and good for everybody. When it becomes wintertime, things aren't growing as much as they used to. So the reefers, the produce market, they've gotten slowed down. So they'll take the dry van loads, they'll take whatever loads they can get just to keep operating and be busy. So, but when the market goes down and the rates go down, then everybody's rate goes down. So hope that makes sense. 1 extra, 2 extra. Hey, if it's 2.5 or even three extra loads you got to do, that's just 3 extra days you got to spend on the road with the freight, and you've made up for that difference. So worst case scenario, I'll say this, maybe 3 extra loads. Spend an extra 3 days on the road. That's really all it takes. 1,000 miles in 24 hours is nothing. So maybe 3,000 miles extra to cover that difference in that price. Or, if you've sat day here, day there, or whatever, but if we're bidding in the right price, then we should be moving. So I hope that makes sense. We just got to bid a little bit lower. We got to be going in at like 90 cents and then probably 85 cents a mile for the brokers. So hope that makes sense for you guys. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. If you don't like, hey, that's okay too. You don't have to like it. But God bless you guys. Take care. We'll catch each other on the next one.